Electric cars are on the rise, but people often ask, can they be as reliable as traditional internal combustion engine cars? The answer is yes. Many believe owning an electric car means changing the battery every few years, much like a cell phone. However, that's not the case. Today, we'll take a journey through the life of a Tesla, which committed a shocking stunt in the auto world. We'll explore real-world examples and shatter some myths about electric vehicle or EV longevity and their environmental impact. The average life of an internal combustion engine car is around 8 years or 150,000 miles. But with good care, these numbers can rise. When a car crosses 200,000 miles, it's like living on borrowed time, people say. But not for EVs. They have fewer moving parts, meaning less maintenance and fewer things to go wrong. It's not uncommon for EV batteries to last more than a decade, and most owners will sell their EV long before needing a battery replacement. According to the U.S. Department of Energy, EVs usually need less maintenance than traditional cars because their components require little or no regular maintenance. Plus, there are fewer fluids to change and the brakes last longer thanks to regenerative braking. Now, what about the battery? In the rare case of failure, Tesla offers a comprehensive battery warranty, covering the average lifespan of a traditional car, and it only needs replacing if it loses 30% of its capacity. How quickly does this happen? It depends on how you treat your battery. Most EVs experience 1 to 3% battery degradation per year, with more significant losses in the first couple of years, which then level off. And guess what? The Tesla Model S has been seen to lose less than 5% of its range, even from 50,000 to 200,000 miles. Most of our battery longevity information comes from Tesla, which has the most EVs on the road. But don't worry, all EV manufacturers are continuously making progress. Tesla batteries are designed to last between 300,000 and 500,000 miles, which means most drivers won't have to worry about a battery replacement. Recent data from Tesla showed that even after 200,000 miles, their batteries only lose about 12% of their capacity on average. So in a nutshell, battery degradation, which results in lost capacity and range, is much less of a concern than we might think. Why do we care about the battery? One of the biggest fears for people thinking about buying an electric car is the battery. They worry that it will lose power and range over time as more miles are driven. This makes battery life super important to understand in the long term. The battery will start to lose its juice over time, reducing how far you can drive. But this process is normal and manageable. People also look at the miles per gallon of other cars, so it's logical to think about electric cars in the same way. But Tesla explains that mileage isn't the only thing that impacts battery life. How old the battery is also matters a lot. The battery's age probably affects the battery's life more at lower mileages and less at higher mileages in cars that are driven a lot. Tesla is now using new materials that can change performance. We plan to give more details once we gather enough data for the Model 3 and Y. Now, Tesla is using different materials and designs, making this data more complicated but also more accurate. The early data puts it in the same category as the Model S and X. After 100,000 miles, it loses less than 10% of its capacity, and after 200,000 miles, it loses less than 15%. Let's look at a Model X with 200,000 miles for an example, even though this data from Tesla is likely the most accurate. A video from Out of Spec Reviews fully explains this 2017 Model X. The owner, named Christian, drives a lot for work. Interestingly, Christian has done 65 to 80% of his charging at fast charging stations over those 200,000 miles. Usually, these stations are harder on the battery than home charging, making these results even more surprising. After 5 years of heavy use, the 93.7 kilowatt-hour battery pack can still hold about 84 kilowatt-hours of energy. That's roughly a 10% loss over 5 years and 200,000 miles, which is much better than a smartphone. In 5 years, a smartphone would degrade much more, but the Tesla is still doing great. The car may also be getting software updates with new features. Besides the battery, the car can still reach its maximum speed. The owner replaced the front bumper after a small crash, and some rust spots appeared. There were some other complaints about the interior over time, but the owner says the battery system and drive system should last. You'd have to be pretty unlucky to damage it, he explained. It's just a car that moves differently, so you'll have the same problems as other cars, but believe it or not, the battery is your least concern. If you're enjoying this video so far, smash that like button, subscribe, and let's build your weight loss success story together. This comes from someone who has much more experience with a single car than most people. A car that lasts 200,000 miles is excellent, and that battery should keep going for a long time. As Tesla said, the battery should last longer than the car. So what about a Tesla battery lasting more than 200,000 miles? Many people have gasoline cars that have lasted well over 200,000 miles. They may not mention the cost of maintenance or a possible engine replacement, but that's not the point when comparing these cars. Could a Tesla with its original battery pack outlast those examples? Electrek featured a Model X with 400,000 miles and explained how it reached such a high mileage. This Model X 90D had an EPA estimated range of 257 miles or 414 kilometers when new. Now it can go 230 miles or 370 kilometers on a full charge. That's roughly a 10.5% drop, but there are a few things that might make this number less accurate. Now let's dive into the most interesting news that comes across the internet. In the grand halls of Tesla lore, there stands a story of a venerable Model S P85, an automotive champion that surged past the mighty milestone of 1 million miles. Yet those who dream of achieving the same victory may shudder at the price of such a quest. You know the saying, nothing beats the original. Well, a fella named Hans-Jörg Gemmingen is living proof of that. According to the guys at Teslarati, Gemmingen and his trusty old Model S have shared more than 1 million miles of road trips in just 5 years after they teamed up. The journey was so extraordinary that they might even land a spot in the Guinness Book of World Records. Yet the saga of Gemmingen's Model S is not without its trials and tribulations. Prospective Tesla champions may find themselves pondering the path ahead when they delve into the service history of this record-breaking electric chariot. Before the Model S could stake its claim to the million-mile milestone, it had already endured replacement of its battery once, its drive unit 3 times, and now it marches on its 8th electric motor. But wait, there's more. Gemmingen is thinking about pushing his ride even further, dreaming of the 2 million kilometer milestone. That's 1.25 million miles. Now the million-dollar question, maybe literally, is should he or any other Model S owner even try to follow in his tracks? It's no surprise that the Model S snatched a record. It's the long-distance champion of the Tesla family. But holding the title of most expensive to maintain might be less appealing, especially with repair bills that could soar up to a whopping $4,000, as Motor One tells us. Gemmingen took to Twitter to lay out his Model S repair saga, pointing a finger at the pesky drive units. They've been unreliable to say the least, with the last one giving up the ghost before even hitting 100,000 kilometers. And that was just one in a lineup of 8. It seems he's not alone in this predicament. Teslarati reveals a good number of owners had to swap their drive units at least once. Now when it comes to the battery, Gemmingen's Model S seemed to fare much better, with his latest one chugging along for an impressive 405,000 kilometers without too many hiccups. But don't let that lull you into complacency. Battery problems could be a pitfall for Tesla owners aiming for record ranges. Take the base Model 3 for instance. It's already a hefty investment, but the Model S takes it up a notch with battery replacements that could set you back a staggering $22,600. It makes sense that one owner in Finland chose a teardown over a fix-up, according to The Verge. So reaching the 1 million mile mark, that's not just a test of the car's endurance, but a draining expedition on the driver's bank account, too. If you enjoyed this journey, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more Tesla tales. And tell us your thoughts in the comments. Are you up for the million-mile challenge? Until next time, drive safely and keep exploring.